Habari, hello and welcome to Fontonfrom. I'm your host, Sarah Onyango, and today we are at the launch of Welcoming Ottawa Week. Here are some highlights.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the opening of this year's Welcoming Ottawa Week, also known as WOW. My name's Alan Neal, and I host on CBC Radio All in a Day, heard on 91.5 FM in Ottawa-Gatineau. I did not get the nightmare job, so I'm continuing with the All in a Day job. Sarah didn't get it either, so but I'm thrilled that she's here with us again. Probably the best co-host that I could ever ask for, and I don't know how many years we've been doing this, like over a decade? Well, that's impossible because we're 25, so that's absolutely ludicrous. But please welcome Sarah Onyango, everyone.
Merci. Merci, Alan. Moi, c'est Sarah Onyango. Je suis animatrice à la télévision Rogers. Rogers is here today. Et à CHU 89,1 FM. My station manager is here, yes.
Why did no one do the party
and I
dance
host,
for CBC?
yeah,
What was going on?
because you didn't bring your people.
I know.
Okay, I brought my people. Okay, and so I host several shows. I host one show on Rogers and two on CHUO, but I also have the distinction which you don't have. Je suis la co-présidente de la semaine d'accueil à Ottawa. I'm the co-chair of Welcoming Ottawa Week. Okay.
So in the room today, we've got WOW volunteers, and we've got event hosts and sponsors, and we've got the OLIP partners and stakeholders and elected officials, and perhaps most exciting, not that I want to play favorites, but perhaps most exciting, the Welcome Ottawa Ambassadors who are going to be getting their awards today, because I absolutely love all these stories. Everybody is going to be launching the WOW festivities together. So thank you, everybody, for being part of this morning. I'd like to begin by acknowledging today's event is taking place on the traditional unceded territories of the Algonquin Anishinaabe Nation, whose culture, of course, has continued to nurture this land and nurture all of us. Elder Claudette Commanda, Chancellor of the University of Ottawa, sends her regards and her warmest wishes. She was unable to deliver the land acknowledgement in person because she's presiding over a convocation ceremony and one of the many, many things in her schedule today. So we honor this history and uphold and uplift the voices and values of Indigenous brothers and sisters. Now, I'm also going to remind you that if you are still on that site called X, which I still call Twitter because I'm old and outdated. There are hashtags in the program that you can use to tweet best hosts ever, hashtag wow, or whatever you choose to say. We like Alan the best. No, I'm just kidding. You don't have to say that. So WOW begins today. It goes until June 30th, initiated by the Ottawa Local Immigration Partnership. If you're wondering why I keep saying OLIP, if anybody's not in the know, that's what I'm talking about. So WOW is this annual series of free events and activities. I'm emphasizing free, which is additionally amazing. So you got your town halls and dialogues and activities and sporting events and arts events and storytelling sessions and documentary screenings. And I'm going to be blathering on about all of that. But the whole point is conveying Ottawa's welcome and solidarity to newcomers.
La semaine d'accueil à Ottawa a été lancée par le Partenariat local pour l'immigration d'Ottawa, PLIO, et a été proclamée par le maire d'Ottawa en 2013. La SAO est animée par les partenaires du PLIO et autres parties intéressées qui organisent des événements qui constituent le calendrier de la semaine. La semaine d'accueil à Ottawa est l'occasion en or et est une plateforme pour nous de montrer qui nous permet de montrer notre accueil authentique aux nouveaux arrivants dans notre ville afin d'attirer l'attention sur les multiples façons dont les immigrants enrichissent nos vies. Et enfin, c'est l'occasion de montrer comment nous faisons d'Ottawa une ville accueillante.
Thank you. So I would now like to introduce our first speaker. He served as membership of OLIP's leadership group. He was a journalist, an entrepreneur, and volunteer, a community activist, and is now known as the Day Mayor of Ottawa. Please welcome Mayor Mark Sutcliffe.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you, Sarah. Bonjour. Bonjour à tous et à toutes. Good morning, everyone. Great to be here with you this morning. Je suis très heureux d'être ici avec vous ce matin. And this is a wonderful way to start the week. And it's a pleasure to welcome you here. And I've been thinking about that word welcome, which we throw around, quite often at events and say, welcome everyone. But it's never more appropriate to focus on that word welcome than today as we launch Welcoming Ottawa Week. And I'll tell you a couple of stories. First of all, I'll tell you the story of my dad and how he arrived in Canada. My dad came here in the 1950s, and I don't think he ever admitted to this, but I learned from his family that he was doing it to avoid military service in the United Kingdom. So he moved to Canada when he was 19 years old. Didn't know anybody here, had about $80 in his pocket, took a boat across the Atlantic Ocean to New York City, took a train from New York to Ottawa, and Ottawa was a welcoming place for him. The very first place that he stayed was actually at the Y downtown. I know there's folks from the Y who are here today. And very quickly he found a job and a place to live and launched his life in Ottawa. And my mother's family came here in the 1950s as well. They immigrated from China. They were escaping communist China. My mother grew up in Shanghai, and her family came here. And I think often about the fact that my grandparents were in their late 40s. They had children who were roughly 20 and 19 and 12 and 11. And so their lives were well underway when they moved to Ottawa, and they started over. They left everything behind. They had a couple of trunks with them, with their personal belongings in them. And I have those trunks in my home now, and I often look at them and reflect on how that was everything they had when they arrived in Ottawa. And they found jobs, and they were able to start a life here. And my mother and her sisters went to university in Ottawa and found jobs and careers and launched their lives here, and my mom met my dad, and the story continued from there. But Ottawa was, at that time, a very welcoming place. And Ottawa continues to be a very welcoming place. And the city has changed so much in my lifetime because of how many people we have welcomed to this community. My children, who are 15 and 12, are growing up in a much more diverse and multicultural city than the city that I grew up in. When I grew up, Ottawa was not so diverse, was not so multicultural. So I'm thrilled that we have a city now that is so international in nature, and I know there are representatives of the diplomatic community who are here today, and there are many people who did not start their lives in Canada. There are in this room today, many immigrants like my parents. And I want to thank you for everything you bring to our city, for everything you have contributed to our city. Your culture, your music, your food, your philanthropy, your volunteer hours. Thank you for what you have brought to Ottawa. You have made us a much better city because you are here. So thank you to all of you. And I want to also say thank you to all the organizations and all the volunteers and all the staff in this room who have made that welcome so much better for new arrivals in our country and in our city. And that's what we're here to honor today with these awards, are the people who have made life easier, who have made the transition easier for those who are arriving in our city. And it's not an easy transition. It's a difficult transition for so many people. People who are arriving here having left behind careers and jobs and homes in other countries and family, and they come here to start over, to start a new life, which one day they hope will be a better life, but initially presents many challenges. So to those of you who work every single day in our community, to make that transition a little bit easier, I want to say thank you. And I'm very pleased to be joined here today by, by some of my fellow elected officials, including Lucille Collard, and Joel Harden is here, and also Yasser Nakvi, who has had the experience that I have described this morning. Yasser and his family moved here to this country, escaping a political oppression in his home country. And I'm always proud to tell the story of Yasser, how, you know, we are fortunate to live in a country. There's so much more that we can do as a country, but we are fortunate to live in a country where I think there are more immigrants who are in elected office than any other country in the world. I've not done the math on that, but I can't think of another place in the world where there would be so many people who were not born in the country who are able to become elected representatives. And in other countries, it takes generations for that to happen. But in Canada, Yasser was able to move here, and within 35 years of moving to this country, he was the Attorney General for the province of Ontario as someone who once had been a new arrival. So it's a very inspiring story, and it's a very Canadian story, and one that we should be proud of. But at a time when there are more and more people arriving in Canada and arriving in Ottawa than ever before, we face extraordinary challenges. It's very, very difficult right now, as you all know. So we need to redouble our efforts to make that transition as smooth as possible, to make sure that the resources are in place to give everyone the welcome that they deserve. Right now, unfortunately, that isn't happening. We face a lot of challenges as a community just because of the sheer numbers of new people who are arriving in our city, people who are seeking asylum, people who are seeking refuge, and it's a difficult transition for them, and we need to do more. And we need all levels of government to work together to make sure that every single person who is arriving in Ottawa gets the welcome they deserve, gets the opportunity that they deserve. So, once again, I want to say thank you to all of you. Congratulations to the award winners. Thank you for what you have done. Merci pour tous vos efforts. Merci pour aider les nouveaux arrivants à Ottawa. Thank you for everything you do to support those who are arriving in our city. And let's continue to work together to make sure that everyone who arrives in Ottawa gets the welcome they deserve. Thank you. Merci beaucoup.
Since 2014, welcoming Ottawa Ambassador Awards have been a key feature of WOW. The award recognizes individuals who embody Ottawa's spirit of welcoming newcomers. You're about to meet fellow residents who have exemplified welcoming attitudes and are supportive of newcomers' journeys of making Ottawa their home. The welcoming attitudes demonstrated by the recipients of the award include openness, Daniel talked about that, being open, positive curiosity and recognition, appreciation of newcomers' cultures, Daniel mentioned that as well, friendliness and bridging connections across differences that can be so enriching but difficult to realize in our busy lives. So each year, OLIP invites immigrants in Ottawa to nominate individuals who have significantly impacted their journey to making Ottawa their home. And this year, we received an overwhelming number of nominations from newcomers. A selection committee comprising of several OLIP partners have chosen 6 outstanding individuals as this year's award recipients from a pool of over 100 nominees. We want to celebrate all the nominees as we present this year's awards. And I would like to also acknowledge that among us today are past recipients of welcoming Ottawa Ambassador Awards. I saw some of them in the room. Can you wave your hand? Yes? Look, hey, okay, all right. Excellent. Welcoming Ottawa ambassadors, they come from many walks of life. They could be a neighbor who explained where to shop or how the school's work here, a colleague who answered newcomers' questions about workplace culture, or strangers at a mosque, temple, or church who reached out and became lifelong friends with newcomers. And what we're really celebrating is the spontaneous kindness and genuine welcoming attitudes shown by everyday people in Ottawa. And I saw Councillor Ralston King, who is going to come up here and help us present the awards on behalf of the mayor. So Ralston King represents Rita Rockcliffe Ward. He was first elected to Ottawa City Council in a historic by-election held in April 2019 and was re-elected, thank God, in October 22nd. During his tenure, Ralston has served on numerous committees, including as council liaison for anti-racism and ethnocultural relations initiatives, where he was instrumental in creating the city's anti-racism office and strategy. He's also been a dedicated member of the boards of the Ottawa Police Service, Crime Prevention Ottawa, Ottawa Community Housing Corporation, Ottawa Public Library, and Ottawa Community Lands and Development Corporation. And as I read each ambassador's profile, the first recipient is David Pepper. David Pepper, nominated by Mohamed Al-Tasseh. All right. Through volunteering, yeah, you did the exact opposite. Through volunteering with Capital Rainbow over the past decade, David Pepper's compassion, kindness, and generosity has personally touched the lives of many LGBTQI+ refugees, including Mohamed Al-Tasseh, who came to Ottawa from Syria in 2016. David showed Mohamed practical things like how to navigate the public transit. You worked at OC Transport, didn't you? Yeah, so you would know that. In addition, he became an important mentor to the young man who now works full-time in the federal public service. David also showed him the sights in Montreal and was there to cheer Mohamed on when he competed in a Pride Week running race in that city. Now you can give a round of applause to David Pepper. Thank you. Yes. Our next recipient is Doreen Cato or Cato. I'm not sure how to pronounce this, but Cato, yes. Nominated by Nakanjako Njeri. Doreen Cato benefited from the goodwill of strangers when she came to Canada from Uganda in 2017, and 4 years later, she paid it forward by being a pillar of support for Nakanjako Njeri and her 3 children. When they arrived at the height of the pandemic in 2021, Doreen said, "Welcome to Canada. Everything is going to be all right. Just give it time." She assisted the family with virtually all aspects of their settlement, from housing to the paperwork involved in their refugee claim. Nakanjako recently celebrated her 1-year work anniversary at Matthew House and has joined Doreen in helping other newcomers. Jacques Shore, nominated by Walid Nassimi. Shortly after Afghanistan fell to the Taliban in August 2021, Jacques Shore, along with his law partner at Gowlings WLG, Louis Rettig and Farouk Samim, founded Operation Abraham. As part of the nonprofit Interfaith Volunteer Advocacy Group, he lobbied senior government officials so that Abdul Walid Nassimi's family could have the paperwork required to come to Canada from Pakistan, where they were living under precarious conditions. Abdul and his family arrived in Ottawa last year and deeply appreciate Jacques for his compassion and advocacy, and whose actions provided a lifeline during some of their toughest times. please, please give a very, very hearty round of applause to Jacques Shore.
First thing I should do is I do want to thank my fellow ambassadors, David Pepper, Doreen Cato, Heather Wasik, as well as Joan Turner and Joe Connor. Everyone in their own way obviously has made a contribution in the context here in this amazing community of our national capital region. Yes, we have incredible challenges as a country in a world that's extremely complex and a world that is continuing to be more complex, but I'm one of those that believe that Canada has a very special place in the world, to a great extent as a result of the tapestry of individuals that are here that have come from all over the world. So it's really with deep gratitude in this most special way that I would like to first thank the gentleman who had nominated me, Abdul Walid Nassimi. It's quite a story. I'm not alone. I want to tell you that, as made reference, Dr. Farouk Samim, who is from Afghanistan, was the motivator to instill in the handful of us that we had to do something quickly to help those in Afghanistan that had no right to be left behind, and we had to do what we could. My partner, Louis Reddick, who worked very hard along with me on this initiative, and my firm, Gowling WLG. I call it a firm with a heart. It's a big firm, but it has a heart, and it understood that we needed to do everything we needed to do to engage. I'm going to just say, just for a moment, I want to dedicate the words that I'm going to share with you to Yama Nassimi, who is a brother of Walid, and I see his brothers here, Khalid and Haroon. I mean, Haroon just arrived last week, and there was no question that the death of their brother was tough on all of us that actually engage in this effort. I want to say that I also dedicate this to my half-brother, who was killed when he was 5.5 in the Holocaust, simply because he was Jewish. And that was a motivator for us as well, because it was, in this case, what we understood, Jews helping Muslims that had to be helped. It's interesting, as I look at where we are today, and I made reference to the difficulties, and in this context, you know, when we look at welcome, I was asked to say a couple words on welcome. So what do they say about welcome? What's the definition? To receive in a warm and friendly way. So as a first-generation Canadian and son of Holocaust survivors, who thanks God every day that my parents could come here with the little that they did, but an incredible background of their families and history, which was basically instilled in me and my brother Michel, who just recently retired from the Federal Court of Canada. What we saw here was in Canada, was heaven, a haven. It's a haven for so many. And while we have the challenges and it's cold in the winter, I say we have warm hearts, but we have to work hard. So a welcome is a kind of greeting designed to introduce a person to a new place or situation, to make them feel at ease. The term can also be used to describe the feeling of being accepted on that part of the new person. And I say that means to embrace someone warmly. It is the element of the human dimension that is evoked in the manner in which a person is embraced by another. It is to do unto others as you would wish others to do to you. It is linked to the love thy neighbor concept. How much the better the world would be if this sentiment were internalized by all and shared through positive physical action. So I want to end by a poem that my mother wrote. My mother was very well known for the work she did. She built bridges. She was a philosopher. She was a writer. She was a professor. She created an institute in Philadelphia, which my brother and I are working very closely with Gratz College and continuing where all her papers are. She instilled in us that welcome perspective, opening our hearts. And she devoted her life to building bridges because that was what she swore to the good Lord she would do if she survived the war. In her book, and she wrote many, and actually her center is called the Lena Ellen Shore Center for the Advancement of Human Potential. So think of that. It is a human potential in the way in which we want to help others. This is from her book, Rendezvous with Love, and I read it to you. There is only one light. There is in the world only one light which you cannot turn off. It remains shining throughout wars, shining over hate. This light enters every grain of earth where life exists, every field and every forest, every home, palace, or hut. You can find it in the prairies, in the cities, in the mountains, and in the deserts. Smiling, radiant, charming, caressing the foreheads of lovers, touching the hands of mothers, stroking tenderly the faces of children. This light is called love. Thank you.
Okay, so I got nothing after that. I mean, no, that was very emotional. Merci beaucoup de ce témoignage tellement, tellement, tellement touchant. Yeah.
And thank you to everyone for sharing their stories and for these amazing nominations, for being able to see all the many ways that people can make a difference and do make a difference in life, and for those who have both still with us and those who have passed on. It's amazing. Doreen and her nominator, I should mention, are going to be on All in a Day later today. You get to hear their story in a little bit more detail, but I think what you're seeing today is just a little glimpse of what these people have meant and the effect they have. So thank you for everything you do.
And each of the 2024 Welcoming Ottawa Ambassadors shares a compelling story that highlights the challenging journeys newcomers face from their initial arrival to establishing Ottawa as their new home. And of course, we all know about the difficulties that immigrants encounter when they uproot their lives, but these difficulties alleviated by people like David Pepper and Jacques and others who were honored today. And we can really learn a lot from the positive attitude and warm welcome of our Welcoming Ottawa Ambassadors. You will find more details on each ambassador's story on the WOW website, welcomingottawaweek.ca. And these stories will also be shared through social media throughout the weeks. We hope you enjoyed everything you saw on the show today. We love to hear from you. Please write to us and let us know what you thought of the show today. And tune in again next time for another episode of Fontonfrom right here on Rogers TV.